We'll get right into our agenda here with the standing committee reports. First is lease negotiating and real estate committee. Cell phone, the Verizon cell phone tower would be the first item on the list. So Dan, do you have any update or anything you want to inform the group?
Nothing that I mean, I think pretty much on our end, we're done until they finish their permitting and start building, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's getting a little frustrated with our process, but he's just not from the area, so it takes a bit more time.
Is that because of the cadence of the meetings that they have to like present stuff to, or?
No, his submissions just aren't up to par.
Okay,
He's getting close.
okay. Any questions on the cell phone tower? All right. Well, thank you for working on that. We'll move down to rezoning. Any update on that from the committee?
It's noted completed here.
It's
Yeah,
done,
It's
rezoned.
Yeah, and the and our board of supervisors has approved. So, we can take whatever next steps we deem are necessary from a development standpoint. I guess since we're talking about real estate committee work, I guess that would give the real estate committee the opportunity to get out there and maybe think about how we're gonna use the property or what we want to use it for. Possibly even discuss the situation with real estate people.
Had we engaged with a commercial realtor
Oh.
like a year or two ago? And I thought that's where the whole rezoning thing came from, was we had consulted, or Mike had consulted with somebody.
Yes.
And they said, if you do this, your avenues will be greater, so.
Keller Williams, right?
I'm not sure who he dealt with. That sounds
I have
familiar.
the name though, because I think we met with him offsite somewhere.
That's what I thought.
Maybe get some ideas from some commercial estate people. A lot gonna be happening along Stony Battery Road here in the next 5 years. Making our property even that much more valuable, in my view. So,
Okay. Any questions on rezoning or to the real estate committee at large? We will move down to the finance and operations committee. The barn and pro shop future plans. So there was a meeting, I unfortunately, sorry, missed that. Kind of big picture, what you wanted to do with the property. Anything come from that that's up for discussion for the board as a whole?
We talked quite a bit about some options, and there was really no consensus about how to handle a couple of things. So it's still a work in progress. It's trying to figure out what we're gonna actually suggest being done there. I think it's important to know that we've talked to a couple of lobbyists about grant funding. And they've told us that in order to present an application, the first thing we have to do is to have some kind of a project scope and a cost estimate. I think we need to think about keeping a thing a little bit separate. Both lobbyists said they're really not thrilled about the idea of proposing any improvements directly for the golf course. So perhaps the pro shop and the barn future plans, that might almost turn it, I think, into a separate project that we might not be able to get funding for. The key is to try to, when we decide what the scope is going to be for the development of the tract, that we come up with a justification why, even though it is, has been rezoned, the whole idea behind that will be to generate commercial establishments coming in and additional revenue to the township, so.
Okay. I think funding, no funding, as far as the barn is concerned and the pro shop, as a whole, figuring out what we want to do with that building and structure. We need to tighten that up and then figure out what it's gonna cost. Cause then if I think you said there's a roof that we have to replace at some point, and that's gonna come with a large expense. We're gonna have to figure out the opportunity cost to us if we put money into the roof. What does that take away from any other project that we might work on?
Right.
Or if it's better to, invest some funds into that building and eliminate, the bigger roof, project. But I guess we're not at a point yet where that is an issue, but that's not something that we necessarily have a timeline on. Like that could be something that would come up sooner rather than later. That could be something that we don't have to really address for many years, but
Agreed.
I think you said the condition of the roof, there's leaks that can be patched, but
All the leaks have been patched. You probably have another 5 or 6 years, but it's probably gonna take you 5 or 6 years to get funding.
yeah,
So now it's time to start developing the scope, hiring a consultant for funding, developing a scope, get pricing, hiring a consultant for funding.
so the consultant, like the ones that we met with, as far as trying to get the grants and stuff like
Right.
that.
Mhm.
Is there anybody that we could bring in? Because I don't think any of us are architects or, real estate development that would help us kind of look at what we have there and maybe give us a couple of options as opposed to us trying to come up from scratch. Do you have anybody?
You need the scope. You need the scope of work. So you need to tell them, you need a pro shop, you need a maintenance building, you need a deck, you need a parking lot, you need, and then reach out to an engineering firm or a landscape architect maybe to lay it out for you and say, no, this isn't gonna work. This might work. This is the problem, tearing down the barn. How are you gonna get utilities in, those types of things, and add those costs into an estimate. And then you have a good solid foundation to go talk to consultants to seek funding.
Okay.
I have a question I direct to Bob and to Cindy. Do you recall some years ago, we had that consultant and was that Depew? Does that name ring a bell? Is that their name? Did they make any reference or, I don't remember the details anymore. Had they touched upon the barn at all?
Well, they
Or
were
strictly-
operations,
Okay, that's what I didn't remember.
Alan.
Alan
Yeah.
Depew, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I didn't remember if that would be worth taking it.
They might
Peek
have
at.
given an opinion, but
Yeah.
that's not their forte.
Okay, all right.
And Dave, you said you talked to a few lobbyists that said,
Not lobbyists.
oh,
They were, they were a company that ran golf courses, managed golf courses.
no, I'm saying, when Dave started talking here, he said that he had talked to somebody and they weren't overly thrilled with improvements to the golf course for the grant funding.
Well, both lobbyists indicated that if you went to go and you went for the RAPSI funding, that type of funding is not well thought of as far as that particular grant structure. Both of the lobbying firms we talked to said that. They said that we would have to couch any grant monies, and I'm talking now about the maintenance building relocation, in how it would assist in developing, the township in developing a tract that would bring additional jobs and revenue to the community.
Huh.
It couldn't just be shown as a improvement for the golf course only. In fact, they both suggested that we talk about relocation of the maintenance building rather than, and couch it in that respect. So they felt that there was a possibility that we could get a grant funding for that. But to propose it solely as a improvement to the golf course would be a tougher sell to the legislatures.
Yeah, they were not high on that. Anything that wasn't creating jobs or additional revenue, they said it was, wouldn't, nobody would vote for it is what they said, so.
But as I said, there's other ways to fund it.
Mhm.
I think it's important that we develop first a scope of work. What are we talking about here? And I think as it relates to the pro shop and barn, I think we have to sort of determine whether one's gonna depend on the other, okay? We can't do anything from we won't be able to do anything from a real estate standpoint until we move the barn, or move the shed. I think that, in my mind, that should be a priority. We should figure out, when, how, and where we could move the, shed. And then, once we, again, develop a scope of work on that, then we can sort of move forward into the next step. Which might be funding, I guess, right? And we need some agreement on exactly what the project would be.
So what they told us was if we wanted to try to get funding for the maintenance shed, it would have to be kind of part B of, the barn that would potentially, put in like a commercial building or something like that. But we needed that to be part of our plan, with really the front part was to put in like a building that we could then, lease or create additional revenue. But the maintenance part, we would kind of have to add into that and see if they would approve that as like really the second leg of the project. If we're looking at funding from the different grants that we were going through.
Well, I just think we, as a group here, we should determine what we need. And then, once we determine that, we figure out a way to pay for it. And whether that's grants, whether that's a bond of some type, or whether the township lends us the money. I just think we should get on it as fast as we can, recognizing that it's gonna take a year or two at a minimum to get just the maintenance shed relocated, if not more, if not longer. It's just, we just gotta try to move it on based upon what we need, what our needs are, and there's lots of ways that we possibly can finance it. That's all I would say. I recognize that we've heard some things about, from the people who provide the grants, but, they've got a whole other agenda, really. Their agenda isn't necessarily our agenda or what we're trying to do. I think we should, develop the scope of work for both. My concern on the just to step back a second away from the maintenance shed. I mean, I'd have a concern that roof's not gonna last 5 years, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. But then what do you do? Then if we let it fail. So I think there's some priority on both projects. And I think we have to, figure out a way to develop a scope on each project and then move forward from there. And Cindy, scope is nothing more than what? When we talk
List of
about
wants and
scope-
needs.
Hmm?
List of wants and needs.
Right,
And costs.
And then you have to go after the cost, yes.
but the first step is wants and needs. That, I don't know, that shouldn't be, certainly from a maintenance shed standpoint. That's, shouldn't be too hard to determine. We want to move it. We want to move what, a 20,000 square foot building, something like that, to a new location. Okay, we're going to move it to a new location. Where is that new location going to be? I think we have some thinking that onto the sod farm somewhere, might be an option. Or maybe Nisley Road's an option. I don't know. Probably not, but
From our last meeting, I think what Joe had asked for that it would be the sod farm and not necessarily the Nisley Road, I think is what they said would be ideal for the maintenance.
so that piece is, the maintenance people at the golf course would prefer that it go to the sod farms. Okay.
Is the maintenance shed more important than the barn and pro shop?
Well,
So I think that piece of property out there is still attractive, and we may be able to get assistance like we were looking in the past to move or relocate or do whatever. in order to get that tenant in there to be able to build or whatever they're gonna do.
You're saying to put the maintenance shed as part of the whatever deal?
No, I
with
think,
whoever-
well, I mean, I think that that's an option, but that shed, the maintenance shed doesn't have to move, in my opinion, until we have a tenant ready to go in. Because there's nothing preventing a tenant from looking at that piece and saying, yeah, that's fine, we'll just gotta, I mean, they're gonna wanna demo it and level it out anyway.
Might be, you're,
But that
Might be
adds,
right.
yeah, but I mean, that just adds, in my opinion, that adds multiple more options to the maintenance shed and relocation. I think for this barn, pro shop issue that we have less options from a finance standpoint or from a money standpoint. So which one's a priority to focus on first, or we just focus on both as separate projects?
I think it's one project. It could be different stages, but it's one project. And you have to seek funding for one project. And that funding could be from different sources. It could be, like Tom said, it could be a loan, it could be a grant, it could be low interest funding. But your main cost is going to be rebuilding that maintenance building. So the committee really needs to meet again. I think there was a list that we developed. I don't remember how we ended that meeting, if we agreed to that list, in which case we can share it out. And then decide on who we want to hire to give us a cost estimate. See what makes sense, see how we, we talked about putting the snack bar in the basement of the pro shop in the basement of the snack bar. Physically, the features down there, it's not going to work. And I think an engineer will come in and say, tell you that. So therefore, then we need a separate building. If we do a separate building, do we do a whole string of buildings and have a little bit of commercial space? Which would help us with an RCAP grant. They're all intertwined.
A lot of moving parts.
You want to have a pad site that's build ready when you go out for commercial developers. That would be ideal. So there's again, another cost. You got to get rid of the maintenance shed, level it out. Check the utilities, make sure they're all there. So they can just come in and do their thing. Or we put little commercial buildings up there and rent them. Lease them.
you know, one of those leasees or leasors could be, the pro shop.
Right. So you could have like a small strip mall on two sides of the parking lot, even if it doesn't take up too much space. And still have the parking in the middle with all the leasing space on either side, and one of those being the pro shop.
So I guess just to try to get our arms around this, what would be step one? What would be the first thing that we need to, I know the scope is something that we have to continue to discuss, but
Well, you need the scope.
yeah,
You don't move forward until you have a scope. It
yeah.
could change by the time you're done,
Yeah.
but you need a scope.
But so I'm saying if we have the scope and let's say in our scope, we have paving, maintenance shed. And if we want to get into the like barn and pro shop construction. At that point, I feel like that's the three things that we have kind of addressed as far as what we want to accomplish and then what we want to seek funding for. If that's our scope, not to say any other ideas aren't welcome at this point, but if that's our scope, who do we go to then and say, what would it cost to get this paved? What would it cost to get this moved over to the sod farm? And what would this cost to, tear down the barn and rebuild either a pro shop or like a string of buildings? Like, what's the step there?
So how does the authority want to handle that? We have David Miller and Associates, they're the township engineer. They're familiar with the project. They've done sketches of the project. Do you want to hire them? Do you want to go out for proposals? There are other engineering firms that can give you estimates. It's a question of how you want to handle that.
I'm not familiar with Dave Miller. I mean, is that like a go-to for sure?
That's
gonna
the
be co-
township engineer. They've designed several of the plans and the plot plans of that parcel.
Okay, yeah,
To
because
see.
we needed to define the scope and get the cost out, because the biggest concern I have is once we hit the cost level, then it's like, okay, how are you really gonna make this happen? if we're gonna be a break-even operation, it's, from my perspective, it gets a little challenging.
Mm.
I mean, DMA has the benefit of knowing the township. That's not to say that another engineering firm could come in and do the same thing.
So how does this work with Dave Miller? Do you take care of that, or can I work with you? I mean, I'm obviously available to help out.
I'd ask him for a pricing, estimate of what it might cost us for him to price it out. He'd come out and meet with us and sit and look at the property and fully understand what we want to do. And then probably give us a ballpark number.
Okay.
But I think we want to have something in writing that we want to present to David Miller and say, this is what we're thinking at this point.
You need a scope.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So that's the,
And I think our meeting that we had, we pretty much sketched that out. It's just a matter of fine tuning it.
is that a document somewhere?
Yeah.
Do we all have copies of it?
That I don't know. It was the minutes from when we met with the,
Yeah, it's the minutes from the last meeting we had, the committee had.
back on May 23rd, I think it
Yep.
was.
Can we have copies of those minutes to all the authority members?
Yep.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
we come up with a scope that we're still gonna look at an engineering firm. They may come back and say, yeah, that's a good idea, but I would do it this way instead. Correct? I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get as far as
Well, it's wants
With-
and needs, yeah.
yeah, well, I was just saying with the blue collar attached to the barn with the pro shop, like, what can we do? Like, can we just slice this in half and blue collar doesn't feel anything, or, how does that work? And if an engineering firm can give us a true idea of, yeah, I can, bulldoze this section and then we can build a pro shop structure. And what's the cost on that? And then it's like, okay, well, after that, if we wanted to build a couple other, buildings, to lease out, like Cindy was saying, what does that cost? And then just kind of go from there. But I think as far as the scope is concerned, we have it pretty straightforward, but as far as like, what does the footprint of the parking lot look like? Does that change with the buildings being reshuffled, or, with the maintenance shed moving, with like for the utilities or, the road access, we have to build the parking lot out there, what does that look like? I feel like we have a general idea of what we want to accomplish without getting too, fine tuned with what we want to do. Bring it to the engineers and just say, what are the capabilities that we have here? What are the options? What do you think? Then at least, we're kind of making more informed decisions, and then we can decide if we want to engage with one of the consultants about trying to get funding for it and what they think as far as what we could maybe get funding for and what's, a definite, you're not going to get anything on this. So,
We do want to keep moving on it. At that committee meeting, we had the building maintenance person there. He has institutional knowledge regarding the golf course as well as our public works director. They will not be here in another year. They'll retire. So the faster we can get that information on paper, the better off we are, because there's little nuances at the golf course, which we're all aware of, that they know of and can maybe avoid a disaster if we start digging. So we'll get you a copy of the minutes. Maybe have another committee meeting to decide if that's the list we're moving forward with and how you want to proceed. I'll talk to David Miller, see if he's willing to give us an estimate. And then the authority can decide if they want to seek another estimate or move forward with David Miller.
Do all the authority members have a copy of the park plan for the sod farm?
I don't know. I can make sure they get one.
To make sure that they
Yeah.
have that. And then, we've talked a little bit about a possible location, sort of referencing what you're thinking on the parking lot. If with a maintenance shed out there, and the addition of a park that is going to have parking,
mhm.
okay? If somehow we can connect the two, the maintenance people at the park work from 5:30 to maybe 2 in the afternoon. And we'd have plenty of parking and plenty of parking lot there. And then people can come in and use the park also at that time, but most of the park use will be later in the afternoon and in the evening.
Mhm.
So the whole thing might dovetail pretty well back there.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea if, yeah, we have another committee meeting and kind of go over some of those and then,
And then we'd be building a municipal maintenance complex,
Right.
not a golf maintenance shed.
Which might be looked at more favorably than a.
Well, they were talking additional equipment, additional space just to handle the park then as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the timeline on those might not match. Right? Did you say the HYA could be 5 or 10 years away?
No, I don't think the HYA is 5 or 10 years away. I think the
No.
park completion is 10 years away for sure.
Okay.
But at the initial stages of the park, I'd like to see them start next year. I don't know
Okay.
whether that's gonna happen but,
Yeah, that might look
Isn't the
like
grant
a
approval this
stone
fall?
parking lot and 2 baseball fields.
yeah.
Stone
Yeah,
parking lot
that's-
could lead to
that's
the
fine, okay.
maintenance facility.
So
Yeah. Okay.
I know there's.
I just want to make sure the timeline isn't
Yeah.
an issue. Okay, well, we'll put another committee meeting on the books and then try to come up with something to get to somebody so we can actually start getting some dollar amounts. So we're working with a little bit more information.
And then I would assume, so when we make our scope, break it into stages for him to look at?
No, I'd have him look at all of them.
Okay.
We might not do it all at once, but because I think for the grant, we just want to submit the whole thing and see what they come back with. All right, anything else for the barn pro shop future plans, questions, comments? All right, I'm gonna move on to the budget to actual report for May. So one thing I see on here, we're at 30% of full-time pro shop staffing and we're almost in July. Is that,
This report is
May.
based on
This is
May,
through-
okay,
May 31.
even still, that seems low on the full-time. I mean, I guess some of them are,
There,
If this is to May, yeah, I mean, you got a bunch of part-time people that rolled in probably June, right?
well,
after
that's
school.
full-time pro shop staffing, it says.
you
Is
have
that-
3 months of full-time staffing, so that's 30%, so that makes sense.
Okay,
You still have June and July that is not posted.
but those are
For this
salaried
reports.
employees, are,
Right, well, two are separate.
so that should pretty much at the end of the year be
Hmm.
rather on target.
Full-time will be right on target. It's the part-time staffing that fluctuates. And like you said, they haven't geared up yet for this report to full capacity.
Mhm.
Because May's payment was approved at your May meeting, but didn't post until June.
Okay,
So you won't see that until June. So this is like almost a month and a half behind.
got it.
So that's about 16,000 a month, right?
What is that?
Let's just say that's the average for the year, each month, 16,352. You multiply that by 12 and you're about 200,000, which is, we're budgeted 210, so we're probably pretty good. I would think.
Mhm.
Agree?
Mhm.
Revenues appear to be on target. And
Considering this is May
I don't see any red
31,
flags here. You, Cindy?
considering your revenues, since this report is dated May 31, your revenues are at 40%, so you're really looking good there. You haven't hit anywhere near prime time
Right.
and you're already at 40%. So, yeah, it's looking good. I'm a little concerned about the, fertilizer, let's see where that is at, fertilizer and chemicals. We're pushing the limit there. Now that gets billed to the authority early in the season, and then we pretty much calm down. So Joe's watching that. He knows his budget's 112. He typically comes in very close to that.
Yeah, I saw some very small payments tonight for seed and fertilizer.
Yeah.
They were,
The other wild card is maybe I think it's not the landscaping. One of them has the trees in it.
trees, yeah.
And
that's-
that's depending what happens with the weather and
Yeah. Well, I think Joe said that they do a lot of that work before the season kicks off, and
They
so
do.
that number should be rather stagnant, I would guess, for the rest of the year.
unless something happens and.
Yeah, unless you have a tornado or something that goes through the golf
Yeah.
course. All right,
I have a question. Why haven't we spent any money on advertising for the golf course?
That's probably a Jim question.
Okay.
Jim, advertising for the golf course.
Yeah, right now we don't need to spend any just because we're killing the revenue. We'd just be wasting money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it's a numbers issue for us there.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, when I go through Clipper Magazine or Fig or anything else around here that's local, they're, somebody's advertising, whether it's Overlook or whether it's Cross Gates. And, are we still doing the different programs, for internet? Making tea times and stuff. Remember we used to do
No,
that, Jim, when we first came?
The Golf Now or something like that.
Golf Now, different things.
Bob, you might have to speak into the microphone so we can hear you.
Yeah, we're using social media to get our stuff out.
Okay,
And then we're with Golf Now, which they promote us quite a bit as well.
right. And we do not pay anything for that service?
No, that's all trade times.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
all right. I'm gonna move on to the capital report. I don't see much there. It's worth discussing. I know we had some piece of equipment. Is that the truck, the golf equipment upgrades?
That's at least one of them is the plow for the truck.
Yeah,
That's not, that wasn't that much. I'm not sure what the other, that was the mower, I believe. Joe bought a mower.
and there, wasn't there a new pickup truck that was put on there?
It's a lease payment
Okay,
and that's in your budget.
okay. Any questions on the capital report? And I'm just looking here at the trial balance. It's not much information to review. I'll ask this question another time, but the capital reserve, I thought we had earmarked that for like 200,000. There's only 16,000 in there now.
Yeah, apparently she didn't transfer yet.
Okay,
I'll make a note and have her do that. Well, she at least didn't do it as of May.
okay. Well, we don't have any reserves that we need to dip into yet. Thankfully. All right, any questions on any of the budget items?
I have a question on the cash requirement report,
Okay, let me get down into that.
where it shows us where it shows payments to blue collar of about $7,500. 75, 78. Can someone just explain that to me a little bit so I can, we can understand what that is?
I think that was for the heating vent.
No, that's for
this is,
payment of, snack bar sales.
Catering and food.
And then the catering is an outing. Jim, you want to explain how that works?
Sure, those charges are all what we sell in the pro shop. And then we pay them the revenue. And then the catering is, they charge us to cater in-house tournaments that we do. So we take in the revenue from that and then pay them for the food.
Do they pay for the inventory that's in the snack bar?
Yes, they pay for the inventory. We just sell it.
So so this is just a pass through? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it was set up originally.
But who handles the snack bar? Their employee or the golf course?
Well,
Nobody, really. This is stuff that's bought at I think at the pro shop, like a
Okay.
Gatorade or a Snickers bar.
Yeah, it's just the random stuff that's in the pro shop for the most part.
Although I guess that's a good point. So are they getting the wholesale price and we're paying the sale price on that?
right. Yes.
Because it should be whatever they pay for the inventory, we give back to them for revenue. We shouldn't be paying the markup to them. If that's the case.
Or we should be getting a big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Jenna has it set up with them.
That's worth looking into, I think, especially if each month it's $7,500.
Yeah, I'm not
No,
sure
it's
how,
not, no, it's not each month. It's, if you look at the.
Oh, is that,
This is through, May,
okay.
7,500 through May, so it's 15,000, it's maybe
Yeah,
20.
typically it's 2,500 to 3,500 once we get rolling in season.
A month.
And I do believe that's a total revenue that we take in that we're paying them.
So that should be adjusted then, because if it's through the POS system, then we're paying them what the customer is paying in revenue. But that's not what they're paying for their merchandise. And they're also using your staff and time to pay that or to sell that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, Gina, that was all set up through her. But it would make sense.
We'll have to talk with
Well,
her.
no,
How do
that was
figure
set
that
up
out?
through your POS system, Jim. And how you charge, because we get receipts, we get numbers from you and then we bill blue collar. So that, yes, needs to be a discussion if we need to open the contract or whatever we have to do. But you're right, they should be. There's something.
Yeah, that was brought up in the beginning when we started doing that. And it was decided, I believe Tom and I forget who else, Mike, had agreed with them to pay him everything. That was the cost of doing business with them.
Let's revisit that. Maybe not this year, but I don't recollect setting up anything with them for food that you're selling in the pro shop.
My guess is we didn't think about the markup or call it overhead when we were making that, or, having that discussion.
And again,
Well, we thought the snack bar would be open,
Right.
like staffed by
Long,
them
yeah.
also. And this would be a small residual amount, not the bulk of the food sales that's out of the restaurant.
I thought we were selling maybe, it's cans of soda, and
Water.
water, and maybe some crackers.
Yeah, that's
This
a lot.
seems like more than crackers at 900, just something.
Yeah, I'm not.
Just
either.
something that
Yeah.
stood
Yeah,
out.
we'll get into that.
Question with Paige.
With Gina not here, we'll have to bring that up with her and see. All right, does anybody see anything else on the cash requirement report? worth discussion? I will make a motion to approve the cash requirement report for 6/26/24.
I'll second.
All in favor of approving the cash requirements report, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Cash requirement is approved. Going down to old business. Jim, you got any update you want to share?
Nah, the course continues to be in great shape and we're getting a lot of rounds through. John's junior camps kicked off. He got a great turnout this season. Went up on the pricing, so we actually brought in 6 more in revenue compared to last year.
Okay. Anything that you need? Or want to discuss, or us to discuss?
Nah, we're good.
Carts are all holding up? No battery issues or anything?
Nah, no issues, just guests playing bumper cars with them,
Hmm.
but that's typical.
All right, anybody have any questions for Jim?
Cash requirements.
Jim, have you been able to fill all your part-time slots?
Yeah, we're all set on part-time help.
Thank you.
Have you had any complaints from anybody about anything at the golf course?
Nope, no complaints.
Okay. I thought there'd be 1 or 2 voices.
It's only June.
I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of good things though, as far as the shape that it's in.
Yeah. Joe, you have any updates or anything you wanted to share?
At this moment, I think the course is doing good. We've been doing a lot of watering. So on the 4371 on the budget, you'll probably see some additional fees where we're doing a lot of watering. Right now, we're probably about 7 million gallons, but the course itself has been holding up. I think very well. We sprayed the putting greens yesterday again for to be proactive for diseases, but at the moment, I think everything looks good on the course.
Good, and all the new equipment is working out, helping?
Oh yeah, yeah. The new ferry mower and stuff. That I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, it's just a totally different cutout there, and the overall quality and stuff. It's really good shape.
Okay.
Joe, as a comparison for last year, how many millions of gallons have you used last year at this time? Any clue?
Actually, at the moment, it was kind of a month difference, but we're probably almost at the. We're right around 7 million gallons, which was probably about around 7 million gallons of water last year at this point.
Okay.
Hoping we get a little bit of rain tonight, and I think they're calling for a little bit of rain on the weekend to help us shut down the system a little bit and let Mother Nature take care of it.
Mhm.
You do?
I think so.
No, we have an irrigation pond.
Oh.
How much of it, well, Joe has a backup. Joe, we're not pumping that much water out of the wells. We're using the irrigation system in the pond.
Yeah, whenever we run irrigation, there's floats inside of the wet well, and it activates the actual well to come on, and so basically everything keeps up. It's about we put out about 600 gallons a minute. The well puts in about 800 gallons a minute. So whenever we're running at night, and typically about 200,000, 225,000 a night. So that's kind of what our water usage is per night. whenever we're in this time of the season.
Well, although it's cheap, that's good. We're not paying, for it. So
Yeah.
that's positive.
Joe, pardon me, Joe, I have a question. Did we ever get a new permit from the Susquehanna River Basin Authority?
Yeah, I think all that's done. I think it just happened here recently, within the last couple months. I think Cindy knows more than I do about it. That everything has been finally settled.
I don't know that we have the actual permit yet, but I think everything's settled. All the reports and the review's been done, fees paid.
That takes a long time. That started before I left.
Yeah.
So we're 5
Yeah.
years.
I remember seeing that on, it was like SVACC, something like that was on our agenda and we talked about it and nobody knew what that was.
SRBC, yeah.
Yeah.
Susquehanna
RBC.
River Basin.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
All right. Goals and objectives for the golf course. Anybody have anything they want to add or discuss?
Kitchen exhaust system, any update on that? Its potential cost?
That has to be discussed with Blue Collar. Joe Vosnock, the maintenance guy, said he's not totally sure if we need a whole new hood. It might just be the Ansel system. But that's really dictated by Blue Collar and how they use it, because they use it differently than the way it was designed. And it's very dated. So that could be another cost as part of the project. Because we had thought 100K.
Going back to the grant project or?
I mean, I thought that was failing. They came to us saying that it was failing now.
It rains when they turn it on, I
Do we
think.
have 5 years?
We have to have a conversation with Blue Collar and see what they need.
Okay. And then, did they install their pizza oven yet?
Yes, he's serving.
They are serving pizza?
Yep.
Okay. And no plans for any activities so far this summer?
There was a list that was provided, I think, in January, February of 3 events in the front. I think one's already been held.
Yeah, they had one
Coming
2
up.
weeks ago or something.
Yeah, I think there's one coming up maybe in July and then another in September. And I think they have two cigar events scheduled. We are working through some difficulties with the trash and recycling area. It seems to get filled up rather quickly, so we're working through that, particularly when they have their events.
Thank you.
All right. I'll move down to new business. Nothing listed. Anybody have any new business they want to propose or discuss?
No.
All right. Minutes of the previous meeting. Anybody have anything to add or adjust or edit? I will make a motion to approve the minutes from May 22nd.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes from May 22nd, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain?
I'm gonna abstain.
Minutes are approved. Is there any public comment? I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. So what do I not know about the Stony Battery? You said there was going to be a lot of activity over there. Is it just the HYA fields? Is that what you're?